Hello, minions. Here we are with the latest chapter of Night Below, auspiciously numbered 13. Delicious. Nom and team still at the Broken Spire Keep, with enemies closing in, winter obstructing them. The clock is ticking. Let's see how they cope. As always, we will be using the Order of the Stick Monster for Every Season cutout minis. Today's players. Rick is Nom Guerre, neutral evil human cleric of Mask, 5th level. Matt is Warmerleg Grumblegrog, chaotic neutral dwarven fighter thief, level 1-1. Due to last-minute circumstances, both Shannon and Sean were unable to attend, so Elwinda and Hagen are NPC'd for the session. 2 days after the battle, and I use the term loosely, with Imran and the orcs, Nom and crew are making plans. Nom sends his hawk out to find Imran, but the bird returns and reports a female human with 2 wolves. This alarms Nom as he recognizes that as Olian, the druid ally of Quipper. Realizing that they need to leave sooner rather than later, plans begin to form. They consider heading to Hog Brook and using the ring to travel underwater to avoid the harsh winds and cold air, but realize that the extreme cold might be too much and the brook is likely frozen, so they decide instead to travel via the caves underground. Nom raises fresh zombies to replace the ones lost in battle to Quipper, and the team preps by carving up the remainder of Nom's bear as meat, as well as ice fishing. Matt's new character, Warmerleg, conveniently possesses the same fishing secondary skills as previous character, and is guided to the ice fishing hole by Hagen. When praying for his spells, Nom is informed by a celestial emissary that Mask is displeased with him. You see, minions, in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, level 1 and 2 clerical spells can be learned by the cleric on their own, but level 3 or higher spells must be learned through contact with an emissary of the deity. This emissary in question doesn't deny Nom his spell choices, but warns that Mask is displeased. After a few days, the team descends into the caves below, laden with all the gear and loot, carried mostly by the zombies, but enough to burden even the otherwise tireless undead. Going through the tunnels will be slow, taking much longer than their previous excursion by virtue of being burdened by gear and treasure. Nom casts Augury before descending to make sure there are no immediate surprises within the next half hour, and an ambivalent response suggests to him that neither weal nor woe awaits, which is good for travel. The trip is largely uneventful, save for a near miss where they encounter a large beetle. A bombardier beetle, as it turns out, which they wisely avoid. The beetle was indifferent to their presence, so going around is fairly easy. On the 5th day of travel, Nom's augury, cast before setting out, reveals that danger lurks ahead. They don't know what it is, so instead back off and wait for a bit before Warmerleg scouts forward to see. Whatever threat was there seems to have moved on, so they proceed with haste. After almost 8 days traveling through the caverns beneath Haranshire, the team arrives at the exit to the area near Quipper's farm, thus far the only exit they know how to find. A group of hostile fire beetles in the area attacks, destroying 2 of the zombies before the team dispatches them. Unsure of the time of day or even the weather, Nom takes one of the zombies and crawls up through the small passage to scout the surface. A frigid, almost arctic cold wind whips harsh, but the night sky is clear. Nom returns to report, and the team opts to wait another day to see if the morning brings better weather. The weather tables indicate that the weather does indeed improve, sort of. It gets a little warmer, but the wind is dropped to almost nothing and a light snowfall persists, which is perfect as they can cover their tracks. Climbing to the surface, they see a snow-covered tent emitting a trail of smoke. Nom assumes this to be a sentry of some kind watching the area, his reasoning that the ranger would have likely been able to track them on their previous encounter and find the entrance to the tunnels. In any case, they make a beeline for the Churnet River, where Nom plans to use the Ring of Water command to create a pocket of air and travel under the water so they aren't found. At this point, Bart and Thalon now part ways with the group, as they have a contract with Lord Carmen and need to report what they know of the tunnels. Warmerleg opts to stay with Nom as they are heading into the city, and thus forfeits his share of pay from Lord Carmen. Nom gifts Warmerleg the magical crossbow they found, in lieu of the payment that he is forfeiting. Movement under the Churnet is slow. No encounters means eventually they are able to leave the county and pick up the pace once on the main road to Arabelle. stopping at villages along the way for shelter, held up occasionally by the weather. All told, after weeks of travel through the underground tunnels, a raging river, and finally the main road, Nom and his team finally make it back to Arabelle, where they report to the Church of Mask and complete the mission. Nom is informed that his blustering tactics have drawn too much attention to him, which is likely what has displeased Mask. Further, because he is now known in Haranshire, he can't go back, as it's a risk to the operations there. The Church and the Assassin's Guild will be sending new operatives. The Assassin's Guild is particularly annoyed by the loss of both Bob and Kurg, but such things happen. With their respective debts to the Assassin's Guild clear, the group dissolves and parts ways. Nom Guerre trains to level 6, and must pay penance for his mishandling of the mission and displeasing of Mask, a penance in the form of most of the gold he has already earned. Elwinda doesn't quite make enough XP to level, but banks her share of the loot and hangs around Arabelle waiting for new opportunities. Warmerleg opts to sell the very valuable magical crossbow, which gives him enough coin and XP to train up to level 3-3 as a fighter thief. Hagen makes level 5 and bids farewell to the team, announcing that he is leaving and will not likely see them again. The session ends there, as Nom Guerre and his ragtag team thus conclude their part in the Night Below scenario. Well, minions, this brings the exploits of Nom Guerre and his associates to a close, as far as their connection to the Night Below episodes go at least. This playgroup has been officially dissolved, as real life interferes, players come and go, and not everything can last. But fear not, the Night Below Reviewcaps will continue, as another group will be making their way to Haranshire to investigate the goings-on. Much is happening that is attracting attention. That said, we will be taking a slight hiatus until that group arrives. This is an ongoing campaign, and the new team is currently on another adventure. So while the Haranshire mystery is on their radar, and the characters have their sights set on it, they have other fish to fry. I shall introduce them soon enough, though I must warn you, minions, this is a team of goody-goods, led by a paladin. The flavors shall indeed be different, but unlike the weak-willed wizard who shall go unnamed, I shall not simply just quit because the team's behavior induces a mild amount of vomit. Regarding Night Below, the module so far is playing out marvelously. The slow-burn developments allow breathing room for players to engage and explore. While there are some railroad elements, they are fairly mild, and written in the interest of gently introducing the overarching scenario. Once you're past them, it's clear sandboxy goodness. The county of Haranshire is robust with NPCs and situations, lots of problems to investigate and solve, as well as plenty of room to add in scenarios as the DM desires. The players are meant to be here for months or even years as things unfold. Easily a full-fledged campaign on its own. The hunt for Ranchifus represents the opening salvo, as it were, and the module largely pushes the group in that direction. Being a module written for 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the assumption is heroic characters following the plot. This campaign shook the tree a little by being a 1st edition campaign, meaning some tweaks had to be made by the DM. The 2 editions are largely compatible, so that's relatively minor. And the 2nd by virtue of a group of evildoers taking on the scenario, their motivations and actions being very different than what the module expects. I found that it made for some interesting situations, but doesn't derail things per se. It simply means the interactions will be different. For instance, it's entirely possible that Nom Guerre might have struck an alliance with the enemies. Ranchifus was sincere in his offer of having Nom and crew join him. It's entirely possible for a villain to be impressed with the opposition and want them on his side. In this case, high reaction rolls indicated that the offer was genuine. And why not? Why wouldn't someone in Ranchifus' position want such capable individuals? So many possibilities. Night Below, minions. Based on what we've seen so far, would I recommend it? Yes, resoundingly. It's well presented, immensely playable, and open world enough to allow for a myriad of possibility even with an overarching story and events developing in the background. The first of the 3 books that encompass Night Below, The Evils of Haranshire, can keep groups occupied for many sessions. It's a great little setting, even if you dispense with the overall 3-part scenario and just have a campaign set in Haranshire, though I don't recommend it, especially for players who love epic campaigns. This one starts humble and builds to a massive crescendo with world-shaking consequences. No, if you can, run the whole thing. So, minions, with that, I shall depart for now. We will take a little break from Night Below, and I shall return when the campaign catches up and the new team arrives. It should be interesting. In the meantime, maybe I'll pop into the Old School Essentials campaign and see what's going on over there. Maybe spice things up a bit. The wizard can be so dull, can't he? Ta for now, minions.